Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products. Recorded January 20th, 2021, or December 51st, 2020, according to what side of the world you're on, right? So, good evening, Franklin.
Good evening.
Oh man, I got to get used to doing these podcasts in the evening. You got me. This is happy hour or unhappy hour, right? Gordon,
you're usually going to bed by now.
Yeah, no, I'm getting better. I'm switching my stuff because you're forcing me to stay up later. So, you know, I'm not going to be the old man and go to bed at 9:30. I'm actually going to stay up and be productive up until about 11:30 with reading and catching up on my comic books and sci-fi stuff. Not work though. No work. Definitely not going to do that. Man, you got a haircut. Look at that.
When you start sleeping until noon and working till 4 a.m., then you knew I was a bad influence on you.
Well, because I'm covering customers over in the UK, so sometimes getting up at 2:33. Well, that's when I get up anyway, right? So I'm up, but not in the winter. But I'm starting to join this little sliding scale of when I go to bed versus when I get up. I'm feeling better and I'm rested. I tend to eat too much when I stay up late. Like, I don't know, boredom eating. I'm like, I gotta stop that, right? But no, so far so good. This is what is today? Wednesday, right? This has been a good week so far, even though it's a shorter week. I'm having fun, and this is new. We're on video.
Yeah, the podcast will still come out on just audio only, so people are listening on their Apple Podcast or whatever. They'll still be able to see this. I think this stays on Twitch for about a week, then but it will be archived out on YouTube.
Yeah, I know, and I know that we told our listeners and supporters that we're going to try to evolve and grow the podcast and get more options. And people want to know who we are. Like, who is these two clowns on the podcast acting like they know something, right? One thing I've had to do to get ready for this, because we practice, right, is to make sure we don't say anything that we got to take out. I mind my P's and Q's with my language because I'm an ex-sailor, right? Every other word has an expletive in it, right? You know what? I'm good. You sent a lot of stuff over, but
yeah.
I've been in one day back. Well, I took Monday was a national holiday, but yesterday knee deep into yet another solar winds incident, and maybe we'll talk about it on the back end of the Twitch broadcast / podcast. But for right now, this is Red Cup Security with yours truly, Edward and Franklin. Having a good time. You said a lot of stuff over, man. So somebody's been working, not me.
We have a lot, so we'll hopefully get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And,
so just in case anybody haven't figured out who's who, I'm Edward, and that's Franklin, right? I'm the good-looking guy, and that's the smart guy. How about that? So what do we got on? How was? I would say how was your week, but we used to record these in the end of the week, so that's not applicable anymore. So how was your day today? Everything good?
Everything's good. Just busy writing away, so just trying to keep up with that.
Yeah, I guess I listened to get to see a little bit of my mess and my disorganization, but this is actually much better. I will have my official Twitch podcast and filming location set up for next week. That'll be dedicated. I'll try to get it done today, but I had to rearrange some stuff with the lighting, and it didn't work out. Plus, I had contractors and people in my backyard that's just cutting and sawing on my house and everything else. But
still looks too clean of an office, man.
Oh man, I just shoved all the junk over to this side, right? Just move it over here, but we're good. So we don't bore. Which one? What? Wow! Sorry, I missed what you said. Did you hear that? Look at that. This stupid watch is trying to call out on me. That's why I don't trust technology. You're like, well, modernize your home, Ed. Get some IoT stuff. This is the exact reason why. This is the very first time I've ever worn this in a podcast, and the darn thing is listening to me. Now I'm going to take it off. See? I warned you. I warned you what happened when machines to take over, and we're doomed. Right. But anyway, let's go through all the stuff that we got, man. You said 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 10, 10 different topics today.
Yeah,
That's a
a
lot. That's
lot.
a lot of topics. I'll
Some of
let you
them are going
fit.
to be quick for sure.
Okay.
So, did you start your year off right and do your prepping for the podcast like you said you were?
I did. So I got your links. Some of them I knew about because I was reading some of the announcements. I attempted to prep today by trying to put a dedicated laptop for the streaming and getting the lights and everything, but it didn't work out. All it did was throw more shadows. So what I did was just put it sort of near where I'm working. Hopefully there's nothing here incriminating on my desk that people can magnify later and go look at. You see my flashing keyboard, right?
Well,
That's my
let me put
gaming
the
keyboard actually.
screen back up here so everybody can see it. There you
Yeah,
go.
well,
That's your gaming keyboard, huh?
yeah, you see, you can change the pattern and do all this other stuff, right? That way, when I'm working at night, keyboard's lit. I don't have to have all the lighting on, but it'll be different next time. Oh no, everything's good. Um, do the podcast, get off, cook dinner. Um, had an interesting request today around syslog. And once again, let's get through the topics. I want to ask you a question about syslog and facilities, and maybe we can figure something out. And if we do figure it out, maybe show it on the next Twitch where we can actually bring up the screen and show you a syslog
I
server
can
because the
probably tell
custom.
you real fast. Go ahead. I rather go through that and save the other things for later if we need to. Go ahead. What's
All
your
right,
question?
so customer came to me and they have an existing syslog server and they're pumping stuff into Azure Sentinel, but they're not getting some of the facilities in, and they want to know, is there a wildcard where I can just grab every facility, every log, and just send it over to Sentinel? So when I went through the configuration and allowed them to choose all the available facilities there, they're trying to figure out why. And my first thing was, is this a net new syslog uh, server that you're using to collect telemetry? And I knew the answer. They're like, no, we're using an existing one. We didn't want to stand up a new one in Azure because the change control, Azure policy, we could figure we can just add these in. I'm like, well, we're working on another configuration and you're doing these things. They're going to show it to me so I can actually see exactly what's going on. But there isn't a wild card just to grab every facility, right, and send it over. That's really determined on the sending endpoint, right, the telemetry endpoint.
So you went into the log analytics workspace and customized over there for the
Mm-hmm.
facilities, and they're still not getting everything they want.
You can go in and they have a default out of the
Right.
box, and I added all the facilities from 0 to what, 7, something like that, 9. Added them all, added some of the others, and it takes 20 minutes by the
Right.
documentation. They still haven't seen anything, and now the problem lies between the customer and the keyboard, right? So we need to figure out exactly what's going on. But I was brought in just to sort of troubleshoot. I'm not really delivering the project, so I'm helping someone delivering the project, so I can't really put my hands on. But uh, we're going to get a better look at it tomorrow. I always tell customers I understand what you're trying to achieve by trying to use something that's existing, that you don't have to put another change control request in. You just want to alter it, but you got to be careful because if you're in that Linux and you mess with the config file, you're going to break all your previous work. Sometimes it's worth just waiting. And then the other thing that they had was it was an older VM. For some reason, the ability to go in and auto provision and scale up so that you have more CPU, more disk space, changes the SSD. I don't know what they got locked into this particular VM sizing SKU. They won't allow them to do it. And so they dodged a bullet by going to another server and attempted. And when they upgraded the disk space, the drive type and everything else, it wiped the disk. They lost a lot of the configuration. Like, whoa, that's not supposed to happen. Now, that's not a reflection on the way Azure works. It is that click, 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 and not really read what the ramifications
Right.
are
Right.
of
Right.
doing these things, right? So we'll figure it out. If I can figure it out, these are like notes from the field that'll help us talk to our listeners and say, hey, don't do this. If you want to maintain your toes and don't shoot your foot off. So that's one of the things. I won't even go into the other thing today about licensing.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about licensing.
We're not going to talk about licensing today. I
So
had
they
hair. today, and now it's gone.
So they can't drop in another syslog server just forward to that, so they can start doing a little bit more monitoring what's going on.
They put in the request because the cybersecurity team doesn't own the infrastructure, right? And it's good that operation teams goes through change control requests, reason for request, Azure policy, and or blueprints on how to deploy VM, auto enrollment inside Azure Security Center. And then once it's all been checked on the gold standard, they send it over to the cybersecurity team for that resource group that they have permission to and say, hey, here's your server, right? And I think that's a good thing where you're separating duties. Right now, the Azure security team.
All right. So which log analytics agent are they using on the syslog server?
They're using a new one, the AMA. I think they're using AMA.
So where do they get that from? Is that from... So this is an Azure Linux VM that they're hosting for syslog, right?
No, they had to be using the old one because the AMA for the Linux is it available yet? It's available, right?
Where's the Linux server?
Azure.
All right.
It's in the cloud. Remember, I got dropped into this. This is sort of like a helping to peer out. It's not. They say, hey, you got some time, and I looked at it. Now it hasn't broken anything else.
Are they using Azure Security Center?
They're still getting telemetry from their PAs, their Cisco. They're running something else that they're getting telemetry from. I forget, maybe a web proxy or something. So that hasn't broken. The customer is expecting something that they are not seeing. And so in their other SIM, Splunk maybe, they're seeing this, but they're not seeing it manifest in Sentinel. I'm going to have more detail.
Which facility are they missing?
Well, they're not missing any now. Well, as far as the selection, they're missing 4, 1, 0, and something else. Which is the nuance of if you don't own the customer, you don't know what they were doing, you got to take their word for it, right? And then trying to set up a remote session where then they open up some type of putty into whatever device endpoint that's feeding telemetry. They couldn't do that. They couldn't get Skype to do something or another what they were trying to get in. And we tried to quickly stand up a WebEx to get it going that way, and they couldn't open up a putty session or whatever they were using to be able to get over to it, right?
Or are they just doing it from the Azure portal?
For some reason, I don't know why they weren't using the Azure CLI, right? Or the Azure, the Azure CLI, right? The cloud command line interface. Too many people in my ears on the call, and then the guy was like, sir, we got to start from the beginning. Assume I knew nothing about this. Let's figure it out. And I told him I get to it next week. I mean, not next week, but
yeah, well, I'm interested in hearing what comes out of it. That's for sure.
Well, I told him, let's stand up a net new one, right? And just put it in the same resource group and assign entry and exit via the NSG, right? Because that network security group is already provisioned because you have multiple syslog servers in there. So they set up a very specific network and an NSG and a resource group where they just put all their syslog and Ceph servers. They're all there. They're not commingled with other servers. So that's very good, right? They also have separate ones for the QA and Canary environments. They don't commingle those either. So they do everything pretty much security by separation. But I think that people are just playing around with it. And they're in production, which is another reason I'm like, pink slip evolution, pink slip request, right? Not going to do that. We'll figure it out tomorrow. And then when I get an answer, we'll share it with everybody.
Yep. Well,
or maybe we won't figure it out tomorrow. So I don't know.
I'll be busy tomorrow, so don't call me.
That's exactly when I'm going to call you.
So let's see what we have here on my screen. This first one is Hunt for Azure Active Directory Sign-In Events. This, I believe, is from the Microsoft 365 Defender blogs. Mm-hmm. So what is this about?
Well, this originated from SolarWinds, SolarGate, and some of these evolving threats that you're going to see. to go into detail about the overall impact and what the whole exploit was, who did it, why they did it, how they did it, beyond the scope of this actual podcast slash Twitchcast. But one of the indicators is that you start seeing people trying to access accounts that were either dormant, non-existent, because they either have exported a list of some sort. This is an indicator of compromise when you start seeing someone trying to log into workstations that have accounts that were disabled, or they're bouncing around from multiple locations, and probably meaning that the adversary may just be handing off the activities to someone else in another location or passing it around, or someone has multiple copies of this list of accounts that they're trying to either brute force, spray, or stuff. This allows you to look at this and give you yet another indicator that say, hey, you may have something going on. Is it related to SolarWinds, or is it related to another C2? Is it related to another credential leak? So they're allowing you to take this hunting to be able to go look at it. Now, this is written for the Defender for Endpoint. I tried to copy this and run it inside Sentinel proper, and I'm getting an error back. And I think it's because some of the parameters are specifically as though you are running an advanced hunting in Defender for Endpoint, and the telemetry is either not coming into my lab because I don't have the appropriate connectors in place, which I may or may not, because I think you have to go to Microsoft Defender and turn on all those check boxes that drive your bill up. So you get two things, someone trying to log into a disabled account, right? Especially from foreign IP addresses or known IP addresses that recommended to be blocked, and user to sign in from multiple locations in the past 24 hours. So sort of playing on impossible travel, but with VPNs and stuff like that, you can't really tell. So, but they want to give you ability to be able to run this and give you a heads up if this is happening. So this is pretty easy to test. I just tested in Sentinel because KQL is ubiquitous across the platform, right? But I'm going to jump into my Defender for Endpoint portal, and I'll put it in there.
So you just went to the sign-ins table and ran this.
That's all I did. Yeah. I'll test it out. I went through it. I just haven't had time. I've been responding, and I have the post-holiday surge of activity. Everybody finally back in the office. Really, this is the week when everybody really gets back. Even if they're off vacation, they're back now. So it tests this particular hunting tests 4 things: sign attempts from disabled accounts, different cities within 24 hours, manage identities within the 24 hours. That's a big thing. Not assigning real, created accounts to services and service workloads. So looking at managed identities and service principals that have not signed in. So if you use some type of service principal for app automation and such, why is it logging in now? Or perhaps that application has been retired for a while, that the API has been updated and moved over to another API endpoint, right? Here's another one that this will get you. It doesn't say it here. When you run these, and if you're pumping this stuff into Sentinel, if someone's trying to access your secrets by a call into your key vault, you'll see it too. Like if you have automation where the API is calling to a secret from a managed identity into your key vault, it'll flag that. And I'm like, oh, cool. All right. So this process has been modernized, evolved, deprecated, but something is still trying to do it, and it's deadheading somewhere else. So you can also see the same activity if you're looking at the Microsoft Cloud App Security product and you start seeing a bunch of login failures and other areas in there, and you sort of stitch it together, but those products are not made for stitching. So Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, Cloud App Security, they're great tools, separate. They're not good for stitching. Sentinel's to stitch and correlation.
So what they're saying here is that these tables are called beta right now because it's just a temporary solution. Mm-hmm. And in theory, you should be able to create custom detection rules with this. But here's the thing that I find interesting here. The note at the bottom: customers who can access Microsoft 365 Defender through Azure Security Center's integrated Microsoft Defender for Endpoint solution. So the ASC's integrated Defender for Endpoint solution, but do not have licenses for any of the Microsoft Defender for Office, Microsoft Defender Identity, or Cloud App Security, will not be able to view this schema. But my question is this, is what happens if you actually have licenses for Microsoft Defender for Endpoint?
So
why would you have to have a license for, I can somewhat understand cloud app security, but I'm just saying that why are they excluding Defender for Endpoint, and even if you're not going through Azure Security Center?
Which is when you're not talked out of band. If you are deploying Azure Defender for endpoint,
right,
you get MDE. If you get MDE, you don't get Azure Defender for endpoint.
No. So forget about Azure Security Center. Okay. Mm-hmm. Just say that that's not there. Okay. I have my, Windows E5 license. I have access to Windows Defender for Endpoint. Nothing to do with Azure Security Center at all. Why should I not be able to get this data?
Because if you're doing it on a server, you cannot see it. If you deploy Azure Defender for servers, there's a method where you can also enroll
Forget about Azure Defender for servers. I'm just talking about, I have 10 Windows machines at my little office here that I've now bought a subscription for Windows E5, and I am running Defender for Endpoint on those machines. I don't even have Active Directory local.
Okay, let me tell you, this is fancy speak where you don't have E5. That's it. Well,
technically, I do have E5.
Actually, you don't.
I have Windows E5.
Customers who can access Microsoft Defender through Azure Security Center integrated Defender for Endpoint solution mean you got license for it.
Forget that. Just look here. If I have 10 machines, I'm not using Azure Security Center at all. I have Windows E5, which gives me.
Well, you're good then. You got E5 for Windows.
Right. So, but they're saying, I don't think that they're calling that out properly here.
This is written by engineers. Let me read it backwards. But do not have licenses for Microsoft Defender for Office, Defender for Identity, or Cloud App Security, which means you have an enterprise SKU, you have an E5 SKU, or you have one of the security SKUs for threat. But you're trying to access it because you have Microsoft Defender through Azure Security Center. If you're getting MDE by virtue of Azure DE, it won't work. You can't.
I understand that, but the question is, if I actually have a true MDE license outside of Azure Security Center, I should be able to access this data.
Yes, and customers who've been using our product for a while are savvy enough to know the workaround for this is like because of the tenant, the tenant-wide enablement. And so we want to talk about it on this call, but this is just a note for those who say, I can't see this, and there's an easy way.
And if they're is the sign-in data into Sentinel, is that free consumption, ingestion, or however you want to call it, into Azure Sentinel?
Well, this is not Sentinel. This is Defender for Endpoint.
No. But the tables that they're actually pulling from is Azure Active Directory.
Yes, but I'm querying this on the endpoint, so you may not be deploying this into Sentinel. This is not saying that you have Sentinel.
I know, but I'm just asking you, right?
Oh,
so why can't you just?
No, it's not free. No.
Okay.
Because when you go into the data connector and you choose Azure Defender for Endpoints, and you got the sub things where you can choose sign-in info.
No, not Defender for Endpoint. I'm talking about just Azure Active Directory. Because Defender for Endpoint or Defender, Microsoft 365 Defender is only going to write to quote unquote the device tables right now.
Sign-in logs would be free. Yes. Audit logs are not free. So I am going to hazard on the side that if you can say it in Sentinel, it's free.
All right. So you could set up Sentinel, pipe over the AAD stuff, and then be able to modify these queries just to work from the sign-in table. You don't have to worry about all this mess at the bottom, what they're saying here.
No, that little message at the bottom was nothing more than a disclaimer, cover our butts, because the number of people who hit that exclusionary consideration, I can't think of anybody. If you're using this product, you were enabled to get it, right? You're getting it.
I mean, if you're maybe some of the Azure Active Directory, whatever, P1, P2, whatever.
But the sign-in events, those are free ingested in the Sentinel. That's not one of the Azure that you charge for. The audit and activity logs are. The sign-ins are free. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So this is a quick one. Basically, they're going to, with inside Defender for Endpoint, when you do the automated investigation, the default was set to semi-require approval for remediation. And basically, based upon your settings, then you would actually get something over here on the action side that you would then approve and let it take place. Now they're going to default new tenants to full remediate threats automatically. So
you know why, right?
Because
you got a lot of people who don't realize that they have been compromised by the SolarWinds-ish, and it causes so much noise. The SOC operators and the people overwhelmed. We're security vendors are still calling customers. Hey, you have been compromised. Think about it. I'm getting on calls telling people, how long are we into this now? That you need to go look at this. So we can't wait on this to happen, because this is creating downstream and upstream lateral movement and kill chain vitality. Kudos in making this automatic. Is rather to go, I'm saving your butt, right? And if there's a fallout from it, you got bigger issues than trying to say here, how dare you turn this endpoint out? You cost me productivity. Is that right?
No. I mean, I think that the full remediate threats automatically is the right way to go, because if Defender for Endpoint understands what happened, then it should be able to remediate it, right? I mean, you should be more concerned about the stuff that it doesn't understand.
And then you had semi, right?
Right.
Going to full is just nothing more than, no, what you need to do, or what they need to do is, if you're going to do this, I would like to see some type of email notification, Teams notification, Slack notification, something that says, hey, this was happening. But even then, those emails are coming out. Hey, guess what we did? We did an automatic remediation of this, and here are
Right.
Nobody's still seeing it. I'm guilty. I had something on my machine that came up 4 months ago, but I did it because I was running one of the exploit scripts from the simulation lab, and they're like, wow, where does the email come from? So I'm panicking. Oh my God, somebody's in my house. I'm like, that was me, over the holidays being bored, and forgot that I set up a distribution list. I'm sorry, DLs are gone in 365. I set up a 365 group. Is it groups? No, they moved away from groups. What do we have now? Whatever. But I saw it, and I'm like, oh, this is me playing around. I think it was out there, one of our podcasts, and I decided to go try something out. So this is a good thing. Automation
you actually tried some of the things from one of our podcasts? Like,
I tried 25% of the things from my podcast. I'm going to be better in 2020.
I'm gonna start writing a list, and put it out on our website. Here's the thing that Edward said that he was going to do. Try, and we'll
lists are good as the paper they're written on and the pen they're written with. How about that? Now, I don't know about your list too now, so hold up. Throwing rocks, right? Let's not throw any rocks. This is the easy one. We can pass on this one. This is nothing more than making people be aware that what they had, and once you cause a squeaky wheel, sometimes you need the squeaky wheel to get the oil, right? So this is what they're doing. This is not operational impacting for the most part, right? And if it is, you got a problem.
All right, so here's the next one. Microsoft Teams DLP playbook.
I don't know anything about this. Now, I know that extending out the DLP capability inside Teams to take advantage of AIP, MIP, WIP, and whatever the ultimate information protection is going to be. So for those who don't know with the acronyms, Azure Information Protection, AIP, Windows Information Protection, there is such a thing, WIP, Microsoft Information Protection, there is such a thing, which I think is going to be all catch up, right? being able to make sure that people heard about it and would shake their head. Nobody would admit that they never done it, don't know how to do it in teams. This is how you go through the playbook to be able to do this. And this is everything from social security numbers, credit card, and offensive language, right? Taking advantage of the insider threat stuff too. Um, it integrates with the Office 365 DLP and the CASB DLP. So I do believe that if you create a DLP rule, it is blanketed across. They can all see each other now, right? With some nuances about where you have blank spots, but the DLP playbook is essential. I don't cover security and compliance anymore, right?
So
I'm more threat.
I've been dealing with compliance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive language is over in the communication compliance side.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the data loss, I always call it protection, prevention, whatever you want to call it. Basically, what they're doing is making sure that if you have guests in, you're not giving them documents that should be protected. So Teams opens up an entirely new, in theory, vector for data leakage, and so that's what they're trying to protect here, and making that happen.
Well, when you extend this, you got to look at Slack. Are there anybody else? This is a two-horse show, right? Slack and Teams. Jabba's going away, right?
Oh, Discord.
Oh, Discord. We have a Discord server.
We do. We'll be once we start building things up here, then we'll be posting that out for our Discord server.
Yeah, this has been a huge issue. People wonder why, why they, Slack is kicking Microsoft's butt, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's having this issue where people are trying to get their job done, drag and drop, right? And now all of a sudden, you got a huge DLP issue. Places with regulatory compliance that's all in their business, banks, financial, and those who need huge amounts of regulatory compliance and controls over their IP, pharma, drug creators, stuff like that. This is a huge thing. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna put this in mind, right?
You're gonna go and test this, right?
No, I'm not. No, I'm going to test it all. So I'm not even gonna lie to you, right? I don't do that much. I don't drag and drop anything in Teams, so to speak, and so. But yeah, this is good for those who are huge.
Well, you've done file policy stuff and cloud app security. So for dealing with DLP, you just
Azure information protection was one of my things, right? Okay. I'm more on the side of detecting where it is before you even get to the point where it's being used by putting like AIP scanners in different places and then scanning repositories and even the cloud and make sure, hey, why are you putting these documents in here? They have these classifications, this content of these labels, right? That can be a job in itself, right? Someone trying to get me to come in on a project to do a classification and labeling project. Like, oh, it's easy. You come in, you're going to have to, it would have been a 3-year project. I was like, no, you're not sticking me on this. Oh, no. So that's a good thing, though. That's hugely needed. If you're going to get Teams to be adopted as a legitimate communication medium, you got to be able to take the content because people will do anything they can to get their job down. If they realize you're watching their email and they realize that you're watching OneDrive, this is the next thing. You're going to try it this way.
All right, so our next one is Microsoft Defender for Identity expands support to ADFS servers.
Now, this is good because I did not realize, and I cover, for those who don't know what Microsoft Defender for Identity is, that is the new name that used to be, I started at the very beginning, not at the very beginning. It used to be called Advanced Threat Analytics. Right. And then it morphed when it went to a cloud workload only to run the workloads to run this. It was called Azure Advanced Threat Protection, which was a horrible name because there was already something in Azure called Advanced Threat Protection that was really around, storage accounts in SQL. But now it's called Microsoft Defender for ID or MDI. I did not realize it did not cover ADFS. And I think the reason is because the way ADFS, the very nature of the federation is so similar to like B2C and B2B and disjointed identities and logins. It didn't cover that, right? But now because of the SolarWinds, and this is one of the proof in the pudding exports, once I own you, this is one of the things they're going after. They put this in here to be able to identify that. Now, I'm actually working with a customer next week and we're getting ready to deploy this, right? MDI. And so this is going to be interesting. So I'm going to spend, the next 4 days boning up. My lab is still down because I moved into a new home. I haven't got my data center put back together yet. My
When
domain
did you move
controllers are
to a new
down.
home? You didn't tell us about that.
I did tell you about this, man. I've been in the house almost 3 months now. I don't have anything, man. All my stuff is turned off. There's dust on it.
All right. So seriously now, when we're looking at the screenshots here, it's kind of this, when you're doing the investigation in Microsoft Defender for Identity, which is over actually in Cloud App Security.
Mm-hmm.
So have you heard anything about when they're going to finally get the unified portal for Microsoft 365 Defender?
Bam.
Because they promised it at Ignite, then they said by the end of the year.
So you know about the unified portal? Is that the one you and I were?
Yeah, you're always saying that they're coming out with blog posts.
Oh, I got mine. It's starting to show up in mine. I got it. So it should be to everybody by the end of the month, no later than February 4th.
And you didn't tell me.
Well, you get your own lab. How about that? I had to yell and cuss and everything else to get it. And the next day I logged in one day, I'm like, oh, it's there.
So are they changing the way that Cloud App Security, are they changing the way that you investigate identity inside the unified portal versus being thrown out to the Cloud App Security side? Or you haven't looked at it yet and you're going to add that to your list?
But from what I've seen from the screenshots, it's giving you a summary, the alerts, incidents, and it's still going to pivot you to go to Cloud App Security. Now, the odd part about it is there's more stuff you can do in that portal in relation to Defender for Endpoint before you ultimately have to pivot and go over to Defender. There's a lot you can do in there with the endpoint investigation alerts. You saw it. We just didn't have it. Now it's in mine. So,
well, they in the old portal, they actually had already moved over a lot of the Defender for Endpoint investigation side, not the management side, which I expected them to get in.
And they're not. I talked about to some guys at Microsoft about that. They're not.
All right, I'll fly off to take a look and see what you got to see if we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah, because one of the things people were talking about, why isn't reporting in Azure Sentinel not more robust? Like really executive reports, semi-technical reports, super technical reports, and raw data. You can get the raw data, right? I can get it out to a Power BI. I can get it to a CSV. Right. That's not what Sentinel is for. You need to go to the originating product for its reporting capabilities, because if you put all that in Sentinel now, you're making a turtle climb a tree. That's not a strong point, right? It's to tell you need to go back. I think you coined this phrase. Microsoft Threat Portal is a user-driven interface.
Purpose-driven.
Yeah, you need to go there, right? And the customer accepted it. I can't tell you the customer who absolutely were cloud adverse, huge Splunk, no interest in Sentinel. 2-hour presentation today. I got more questions, and now they want to say, we want to have another one because we did not know this. They love the behavior analytics, which is a hidden gem in Microsoft Sentinel. If you're not,
so you're saying that they're more interested in Sentinel now?
Everybody's not going to displace. People are now saying we're going to run 2 SIEMs. They're going to run a SIEM that's closest to their cloud assets and one that's closer to the traditional. They're going to run both of them.
I thought you were saying that the purpose-driven UI of Defender for Endpoint, they said that's what we're going with. But well, yeah, change it up to Sentinel.
Well, they like the alerting in Sentinel to look at Splunk and say, oh, cloud team, have you guys got this? Yeah, we got it. We're taking a look at it. The Sentinel people go, yeah. And then all they do is pivot over into Defender for Microsoft. Well, I don't know where they pivot, really. They may be pivoting over to the Defender for Microsoft, the threat protection portal, or they may be pivoting directly into it. That's really based on the customer. If I'm a customer, I'm using MTP. I'm using a Microsoft Threat Protection Portal, MTP2, as the place that I go. But that's a lift, Frank. You and I talked about that. If you're going to put all of the integration and the management capabilities, as well as their alerting and incident investigation into a single portal, you're asking all these products to sort of push it into this portal. And the crazy part about it, I don't know who owns that at Microsoft. That's a heavy lift to have all those engineering teams yelling at you. But why is Cloud App Security not more pronounced in this? Why is Defender has a bigger space? Okay. Now, Defender people go, well, why is Cloud App Security taking one half of the screen? Now, why is this? So I think Nathan Swift, who's a Microsoft Cloud Solution Architect,
Was he
sent
on
me a
our
great.
podcast?
Yeah, he was on our podcast. He wants to come back, and I think you and him are working on some capture the flag thing. He wants to come back on and show people how to create markup screens in a portal where you can put all the portals into your customized one. I copied it, right? I stole it, and it
Oh,
works great.
right. We saw that.
Yeah, I like it, man. So anyway, iDiverse, the ability to be able to look at ADFS, which is one of the attack methods for those who were exploiting the SolarWinds, is great. Now, here's the thing. You got to deploy and upgrade the sensor. There's an ADFS sensor as part of Microsoft Defender for Identity. People say, oh, so there's two sensors. No, it's not two sensors. You just got to go and make sure that the update button is slide over. You got to update the sensor, or you got to deploy a new sensor to it. It's not hard. You don't have to reboot the server.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what's going on. Now I'm going to test that because I pull one of my servers up from the basement until the data center is done. I'm gonna plug it in, which is my demand control.
It's added to your list. No comment. Okay.
There you go.
The next one is attack simulation training in Microsoft Defender for Office 365, now GA. So isn't this basically the same thing that they had for, which is you're phishing your own employees or whatever to see?
I don't want to throw shade on those guys.
But hey, did you see where I forget what company it was did a phishing email before Christmas about a $600 bonus, and a lot of their employees fell for it?
Who wouldn't? You can fall for the $600 stimulus check bonus right now. Right? Yeah, but especially what's getting ready to come out. Now there's a new administration.
Sorry, just kidding. We're not giving you a bonus this year.
Yeah, well, I know what this is.
So basically, you're just phishing your own people so you can send them to training.
The major difference between this and Noble 4, which is another competitor of this, is that when you run an attack simulation for this, you're behind your security controls. So you're actually testing the security awareness and knowledge of your people. You're not testing your policies. You're testing behind it to see if these guys will fall for it, right?
Right.
This seems like something nobody at Microsoft wanted to own. It had potential. It looks like Noble 4 didn't really have any real good competition. You know, you have Phishing Box and a few of these other places.
So basically, this is the old portal right here. You can tell by the way that Incidents is put out, and a few other things. But this used to be in the Office 365 secure. Where was it before?
It was in an attack simulator.
It wasn't in this portal before. It was over in the Office 365.
Yeah, it was in office.protection.com.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
It has its use. It's only useful for those who use it, right? So Microsoft realized this was suffering. They created it. Even if you gave it legs and you paid attention to it, because somebody that I used to work with was really good at this. He created a LinkedIn phishing. I almost fell for it, right? But nobody really owned it. So now you can tell that Microsoft is partnered with Terra Nova Security. So Terra Nova could not find a toehold because they couldn't overtake Noble 4. They couldn't overtake Phishing Box and a couple others. So they jumped on board with Microsoft. And the big thing was training. The templates weren't all that great. They had like 4 or 5, brute force, password spray, you know, and then they had a couple of scenarios, HR, so-and-so, reset your passwords. But now, let's see. I'm going to be fair about it. I have not had a customer that's using this. It's like, man, it's there. I spend more time trying to get the simulation up for what return on investment. So let's see if they really do something about it. Like I said, maybe somebody now owns it. Maybe it'll get more robust. Maybe it'll be used more. When I hear about it, I'll have something to say. And I'm not saying anything bad about it. It just seemed like nobody wanted to take ownership of it. And now that they partnered with an external entity, maybe that person who wants to drive their product and training will help make the people at Microsoft be more serious about this attack simulation. I've not used it in 8 months.
Yeah.
Right. So You know the phishing tools that I use. So, but hey, but here it is. I'm about to say something that's grossly incorrect. It's free, but nothing's ever is free because you pay for the licensee, right?
Right.
So if you don't have 365, you can't use this. So it's not really free, but there is no additional cost to it. So for those who have a robust security program and awareness that they need to do, and you need to save a little bit of money, and you just need some low level before you have to go out and buy all the individual license, because I think Know Before is a platform subscription and a plan, and then some of the others are per mailbox. Give this a try before you go out and spend money. This may
All right.
serve your needs. So if anything else, before you go out and spend money, use this. And if you want to save money and it fits your needs and you can cut your renewals to some of those, go that way. So let's put this on the back burner. Let's come back and see what it is. It's
Or
generally
if you just
available.
want to have fun telling all your employees they got a bonus that they didn't, then you could do that this way too.
I won't play with people's money and their emotions in this day and time. I'm not doing that.
All right.
I'm
So
not
here's
going to tell my guys, hey man, you know what? I'm gonna need you to move your office down to the basement, and I'm not gonna do that.
all right. So
All
here's
right,
the
what we got
next
next?
one is what's new dedicated clusters for Azure Sentinel.
Now this is something. This flew up under the radar, and I think I sort of shared this with you once it was available to be shared by everybody. One of the architectural considerations is that what if I have multiple workspace? What if I have multiple log analytic workspaces that I want to put a section of my Sentinel data in there? Can I take advantage of the discount for mass ingestion per each one? So meaning that if my overall log ingestion was 500 gigabytes per day, there's a nice discount in Microsoft for that, from the Sentinel side and from the log analytics side. Now, what this does, it says, wow, I have a log analytics workspace that I'm putting 100 megabytes a day in for that one, thin paper, right? This one I'm putting 300 in, and this one I'm putting 100 in. Can I get the discount for 500 megabytes a day? In the old method, absolutely not. You get a discount for 100, you get a discount for 300, and you get a discount for 100. That doesn't add up because this at the 500 is like 50% off or more than that. This one for log analytics like 25%. No, not even that, like 30. But now it looks at the aggregate space that's being used for Sentinel, and it gives you the highest discount on the aggregate space. They call it a cluster, but you have to buy it in 1 terabyte. That's still really cheap. Even if you are only bringing in 500 gigabytes per day, when you look at it, the overall cost, when you do the math, I have a spreadsheet. I did all the numbers. I'm like, the tipping point is 535 megabytes per day that allows you to have savings, even if you buy 1 terabyte per day, because of the pay as you go and everything else. If you burst up, you're really good. This is a big thing. Customers like, wait a minute. I've been using log analytics way before Sentinel, man. I'm using Azure Monitor and all this, and you telling me I can't get my discount? This works. This is a good thing right here. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, my wife can't figure out what I'm doing here. 1 second. Let me.
Hello, wife.
That's why I keep getting a call.
Mm.
All right. So
here's the thing about a cluster. Don't let the name cluster fool you. You're running it. You're given a dedicated hardware in the Azure Security Center. Why is that significant? The three things that's significant about you getting a dedicated data center to run your Azure security instance for this terabyte. It's sort of like, all right, are you guys willing to go ahead and create a dedicated cluster? Yep. All right. Go ahead and create your login workspaces. To you, it's transparent. It looks like individual workspaces for your stuff. And guess what happens when you run a cluster and not a native log analytics? The native cluster is sitting on probably like an Azure Data Lakes or Azure Data Explorer, but now you get to bring your own keys. I had that with a customer. This fixes that. They wanted to use their own HSM and to control their own keys outside the key vault. They wanted lockbox and they wanted double encryption. The two top ones I mentioned, custom managed keys and lockbox, yes, the double encryption. You don't trust Microsoft? I don't know, right? So when you look at the architecture, you see the individual log analytics workspaces, 500 megabytes, 200 megabytes, pay as you go. The pay as you go kills all your discounts. because chances are the one that you got pay as you go is where you're bringing all your data in you don't know about. So all the discounts you're getting from 500 and 100 capacity reservations, you basically lost because the pay as you go is killing you. Why? Those guys over in VM management did not tell us they're on a pay as you go model, and they're bringing in 1 terabyte a day at 2 gigabytes, $2 per gigabyte, and they're killing us. MSPs are going to, well, I don't know if MSPs can do this. We need to research that. Can MSPs create this for their customers, or can big customers that have business units do this? You can tell I'm excited about this because this is something that was a stick in my eye. And now, even at a 1 terabyte entry, at the maximum, I don't know if they mentioned it here. Let me see. They don't mention pricing. There is also discounted pricing because the maximum pricing you could get was at the 500 gigabytes, and then you just sort of continued on whatever that was. They're going to be dedicated pricing for 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, and 4 terabytes. Totally different. This is a big thing. Our listeners that are using this, especially if you were prior Azure monitor and you got all these log analytics workspace, you got to consider using an Azure cluster and consolidating this. You don't lose any of the functionality. You gain some more. Now you just got to figure out who pays the bill, right? If you get this discount and now you got everybody up under one cluster, you go, all right, app dev, here's your bill. Security, here's your bill. And so on, so here's your bill, right? I can't name a customer that's already doing this. And I think I know the customer that helped facilitate this. They actually one of mine. I can't name them, but they drove this.
Excellent.
Because their business units were driving it. Yep.
Let's go to this.
Yep. This is a good one.
Yep. This is a good one.
Now, this is something I can't test. I'm not bringing it there, but I did.
Oh, the old one. So the one up here is handling ingestion delay in Azure Sentinel schedule alert rules. So if you're writing queries, this is a must read for you to understand, to make sure that you're not missing data in your scheduled query. So I'm going to put the link there. It's just too much for us to go over here because you really need to read the article to understand what they're doing and how they're dealing with the delay of the data coming in. So,
well, I can explain it because it's you smart guys who can't dumb it down for, let me explain it. Let's say that the interval is 5 minutes. So every time
the schedule rule is the look back or the actual time that you're running it.
Yeah, it's a combination of things. I'm going to try to make it layman's. This is a data connector, and I'm here, and I'm Sentinel. So every time I turn around and I get it.
For you.
And because I can turn around and get it.
Let me put you on screen right now. People can't see you, so
okay.
Go ahead, start all over.
All right. The way you explain this is, if I'm Azure Sentinel and I'm the intelligence behind it, and behind me is the data connector, and it's set at an interval which is slower than I can actually process the data. So not only do you have to wait for the ingested interval of the telemetry source, you also have to consider the factor of whatever analytic rule and query that's scheduled at run, whether it be something you set up or that's built in. So if I'm Sentinel, I'm turning around every minute and I'm getting it. You got anything? Okay, I'll wait. Turn back, I get it. But now I'm ready to go back again. So now we got to decrease the amount of time that I'm ready to ingest the data and process it to the time that a Cisco firewall is sending it to the syslog server, the syslog server sending it to the log analytics space. So what we got to do is figure out, and just lowering the analytic rule doesn't work. Because if you tell it to run every 5 minutes, but if the polling on the telemetry point is not in sync, it's sort of like queuing it up before you can get enough data, which is not the case. It's just that I'm turning around, nothing yet. Then you tapping me on the shoulder. Hey, I'm ready. Now I turn around, I get a bunch of data. I get it. Now I turn back around, nothing. Now you tap me on the shoulder. I'm ready now. What I asked you 4 minutes ago, I'll come back in 4 minutes. This is trying to figure out what that is. I had a customer ask me about this. a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, it was above my head. They were saying everything isn't. There's a way if you can understand the ingestion time points of something that you can hide in between that to do something, or auditors can say, well, you don't know what happened. You have no idea what happened in that 2 minutes from the time that happened to here, right? What if that was diverted? What if it was split tone? I'm like, sure. So it's basically being able to sync up the time. Now you're probably asking, well, not out. Why not just always look this way? No, and I know this. Why? Because I took the SANS 555 Advanced Analytic, and this is why you need another component. You either need to put another log aggregator to be able to do it. So you have one, and you got two of us now. Oh, I got two chairs. There, there. So now I'm flipping, and I'm always getting it now. Something like that. But that's complexity in your architecture. Think about standing up two Logstash servers. One's always listening on an interval, and the other one you don't have any gaps. So now it's like looking both ways at the same time. I hope that makes sense, and that's what they're trying to address here.
I'm just actually really dizzy from watching you spin around in your chair.
Well, anyway. So. Now, something that you are really, really good at, and that I'm not, you write very efficient KQL queries. That's another big thing. Think about the time it takes for your alert and query to run. Hey, I'm ready. I haven't finished running the query on the last one. But God, long. How long does it take? All right, I'm finished. I got it. And now when I turn back around, now the query and the rationalization of the data is taking longer than the data ingestion because you wrote a very inefficient alert or analytic. If you got to get really efficient at writing KQL queries to understand that, or shorten the amount of data that you process in that query. So I got to get better than that because I'm really weak. I write really sloppy KQL. I mean, it's just a mess. It works, but it's a mess. And so we'll see. This is a big thing too for guys who are really, really deep into it. And there was something that you and I watched, writing advanced KQL queries. And so this is something. Now, more mature SIMs have already looked at this. Why did they look at this? Because at the time, disk speed and I can't think of the name of it. For lack of a better word, let's say service bus. The backplane, the service bus, and the disk speed and all the physical constraints were something that had to be considered on premise, right? And transferred over the wire. So now all you did was just transfer that latency to a different architecture. Now we got to figure that architecture out because it's cloud-based. And now, even though we make the cloud speed and now everything's like super express route, you don't have to buy express route anymore. Everything's just so fast. The queries and the processing seem to be the point. I know I oversimplified it, but it's basically saying, hey, I'm talking to you. I'll be right back, right? So if you had to do it in another way, it's basically taking this.
Also, let me get back to your screen so I can. You gotta wait like 8 seconds now since we're. I'll let you know when the screen catches up. So, just one of the things to remember while the screen catches up here is that there's two types of SIMs. One that will actually execute and check data when it's actually ingested, and then there's other ones that will run based upon a schedule. Mm-hmm. And so, which is Sentinel is running based upon a schedule, not based upon the ingestion of the data. All right, you're good to go now.
Okay. You can think of it as that if this is the ingestion platform and it's spinning, you only have a certain amount of time to open in your windows, like a sci-fi movie or something. You got to run through the closing gashing gates. I hit a window, right? And so you have to understand that I need to create more windows in that so data can get in faster. That's all it really is. And you said something that was interesting. What was the last thing you just hopped on? You said that there are two types of SIMs.
Right. One is going to actually run queries when data comes in versus one that are just running the query. The detection rule will be based on data when it comes in versus the detection rules running on a scheduled time.
Okay. So if you look at Azure Sentinel, they have something called live stream, right? But that's not viable. Like if you're doing an active
Well,
investigation,
live stream is still different than dealing with
it,
when the data is being
it's
ingested.
ingested because
When
live
does the
stream,
query actually run?
yeah, live stream can't take advantage of all the data and points that you may come in. It's a very spot when you're trying to do an investigation and you're trying to really look at it real time as close as you can, but it can't take advantage of all the data connector telemetry ingestions as well as threat intel and a few others that help the correlation. So that's why you're like, well, Signal has live stream. It can't do that because it's made for a very specific use case. It's not taking into account watch lists, TI.
All right, so I'm going to disagree with you there because a live stream is just basically a query. So whatever you're doing from a KQL query standpoint, you can do in a live stream. The only thing about a live stream is you're basically taking a hunt query, then letting it execute every 5, 10, whatever seconds, and then it's going to send you a notification if it finds anything.
But think
So
about that though. You're right. You're right. I misspoke. It can't. Why it can do that? The limitations of what the data is coming in. That doesn't make the data ingestion any faster. You're limited to
right.
how fast. Yeah, you're still limited to it, right? So I'm sure as cybersecurity, I don't want to say hackers. I hate using the word hackers. It's nefarious cybersecurity people get more advanced. That gap is something that I can operate in. It's like high speed trading, right? High frequency trading. Now you got to get closer to the
Well,
stock
you also have
exchange.
to think about your correlation rules, right? When this data is coming in, if it's delayed, and you're trying to say, okay, how many of this event happened within inside the last 5 seconds versus this one in the last 5 seconds. If this data is pushed by 5 seconds, then you're not going to correlate them and so on. So the post does a very good job of explaining how to get around it and how to program your KQL detections to compensate for the delay. And so that's why if people read the blog post, they'll be good to go and go out and try it themselves to understand the delay. You're just not getting instant data from the connectors, and so you just have to take that into consideration. And on top of that, you're actually running a scheduled query. It's not running detection rules on ingestion. So that's
and by nature, all SIMs are created to be reactionary technologies to look in the past, right? Then they start writing intelligence to do predictive analysis. All SIMs, if you were looking at how they are, even Sentinel was really based on, I'm looking in the past to be able to build data patterns, right? So, but this is, this is something I can't say. I need to really look at this because you told me about this a while back. Like, hey man,
right.
you got to look at this.
You definitely need to. I'm glad that they actually had a webcast about this a while ago. So they basically took the content from the webcast out and put it into a blog here for people to read. So it's a very important concept that anybody that's writing detection rules should take a look at. Now, with that, the Ninja Training 2021 edition is out. They talked about some of the changes that they made. And they also came out with a frequently asked questions area for people to take a look at. I actually like the way that they've categorized things now, and so it's great content to go through. Learn actually came out with some modules. Also, all the complete Sentinel modules are out in Learn. But over here in Ninja Training, there's a lot of the YouTube videos, the decks, and all that stuff for you to take a look at. I haven't had a chance to take a look at the FAQ that they've come out with.
I have contributed that actually, claim to fame. All right. So talking to OFAR, talking about this, and instead of me always bitching and moaning about what's not right, like help. Like this is what I'm being asked. So there is something at Microsoft called Project Velcro. I think I can talk about it. This is nothing. This is where we capture this input from our customers. And one of these things was this. And this was born by virtue of we keep repeating the same old thing when responding to RFIs and RFPs. So why not create an artifact that answers a lot of these pointed questions, right? Not the Gartner stuff and the Forrester stuff and whomever else is like, do you do this? Do you do this? Like, I don't even know what that means. But from customers saying, hey, I got a syslog server and I'm not seeing the facilities in it. Which one should I turn on when I'm doing this? Oh, okay, if you're doing this. Oh, how do I do this to make sure that I am getting the discount on log analytics at the same time I'm getting discount for Sentinel? They're because you get a discount on other, there's a deliberate effort to go get the same discount on your consumption on that. So this was industry people pulling in, asking these questions. And I'm gonna be charitable when I'm saying this is really built for salespeople, right? The Microsoft Salesforce, because they were messing this up bad, right? You ask 10 Microsoft salespeople a question about Sentinel, and you'll get 14 answers.
Yeah, I mean, this content looks good. I mean,
so some contributor credits to myself on this. I asked some of these same dumb questions. Some of them were if you see some really bad
so your contribution is you're the one asking the dumb questions that they have to answer.
Yeah,
Is that what I'm
absolutely.
hearing? Okay.
I'm full of dumb questions. I got a bunch I'm going to ask next week. The side-by-side with your Sim is where I came from, right? Because we talked about it before you got on the call. I'm really big on the side-by-side, right? Because I don't believe in displacement conversations. Unless your current log aggregator totally blew up your environment or missed something, you should consider running side-by-sides and just do a bake-off, right? That way you're not scaring people. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to do this. Now I got to learn this KQL. I don't know what KQL is. Like, I didn't either. And I'm dumber than a bag of rocks, and I picked it up, right? And then you got solar winds here, syslog. I don't know if I want to use a solar winds. No, let me stop.
All right. Well, we went through a lot this week. This is the first time doing this show on Twitch. And so I'm going to compare the download files from Twitch versus running through Zoom. Maybe we'll be dropping Zoom. I've just found that Zoom to be more efficient at dealing with editing and file size and everything like that coming down. So we'll see how it goes. And so every single Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Yeah, and to our listeners, bear with us. We get better, right? I think I was on my P's and Q's today. I'm going to do a huge campaign on testing my peers and friends' loyalty in the field by making them come watch our Twitch account and our podcast. But I like to think we bring value, right? I like to think we bring a little bit of humor. We're not always going to be correct. We'll publish corrections and retractions on something we say wrong, but this technology, what I say right now may not be wrong, but it may not be relevant tomorrow because this stuff is advancing. And this is just not Microsoft. There are a lot of players out there. And maybe one of our episodes is to talk about who are the major competitors in this new thing. Running your cloud on your SIEM on premise exclusively, that's not going to work anymore. You're going to have a cloud solution to go alongside that if you choose to have both. That is going to be the new norm. You're not going to be able to do it. I've seen some of the liabilities are staying with a traditional SIEM with running a robust cloud presence. You will miss stuff, right? Because it's not the technology, it's the skill of the people. And the skill of the people are where hackers like you hide. I know where you're weak, and I'm going to go where you're weak, right? That's the biggest thing. So that could definitely be a topic. Matter of fact, I'm going to speak on it to another webinar / podcast / Twitch called Our Triad. They want me to come in and talk about the state of SIEM technology and how to choose what's best. One of the first things I'm going to talk about, quit using the word SIEM. SIEM was invented by market people who write stuff. It used to just be M, information and event monitoring. SIEM came when someone goes, oh, you're bringing in firewall data. Well, let's write some queries and indexes around that. Oh, it's a SIEM. And Gartner jumped on it. Oh, it's a SIEM. And it sounded good because M didn't sound good. But now you're going to see SIEM going away because it's nothing more than a log aggregator, intelligent log aggregator. Matter of fact, my goal for the next one, I'm going to create the next new term to displace SIEM. SIEM will no longer be a term. I'm going to create it.
All right, once you get a trademark, then you can, or copyright or whatever, then you can.
I'm trademark. I'm big time. I can't hang with you anymore, man. I'll just get it. Frank, 2021 is jumping off really good, man. We had a good end of the year. Let's continue on. To our listeners, thank you for the support. Come on board with us. Make this journey. Come on as a guest, right? Red Cup Security. We do that, right? All right.
All right. Until next time.
Oh, yeah.